So we're standing here in my living room in Tokyo, Japan, and I'm going to show everybody just how amazing Bitcoin is by sending 100 euros worth of Bitcoin as of today's value through my TV, onto the camera, onto the TV in the Netherlands, and anybody with their Bitcoin wallet ready that scans what they're going to see on the screen in a moment will be able to claim the 100 euros worth of Bitcoins. And there's nothing that anybody can do to stop it or to freeze your account or block it or control it in any way. So on the TV here, we have a Bitcoin address that I've just generated. And I have my phone here. I'm going to scan the QR code for the Bitcoin address on the TV. Now I have it. I'm going to send 100 euros worth of Bitcoins to that address. So we'll hit send. And anybody can monitor on blockchain.info the balance of this address. There it is, 100 euros worth of Bitcoins just arrived at this address. So total received 100 euros, final balance 100 euros. Just like that. So on this next screen you're about to see, anybody with their Bitcoin wallet that scans the private key that corresponds with that address will be able to claim that money just by scanning the code that you're about to see on your television. So if you want to take a look, here it comes, 100 euros ready for anyone to claim. All you have to do is scan this one right here, and it's 100 euros worth of Bitcoins as of today. By the time you scan it, it might be worth even more. So there it is for anyone ready to claim with their Bitcoin wallet. Okay, Holland, now you've just seen the power of Bitcoin. I sent 100 euros worth of Bitcoin from here in Tokyo directly to you guys through this camera, through the network, through the TV, right into your home. If I had tried to do that, send you the money with a traditional bank, it would have taken several days and probably cost 30 euros. I just did it right now with Bitcoin instantly, basically for free, and didn't have to ask anybody for permission. I didn't need a bank, I didn't need a government, I didn't need anybody. I just needed myself and you and our smartphones to do it. That's the power of Bitcoin.
We take it for granted that money creation is controlled by governments and banks. But there's a community of people who don't see this as a given and who get quite worked up about it.
Wall Street is fraud, America is fraud, the world is fraud, banks are fraud, central banks are fraud. We live in an era of fraud. It's all based on fraud, and they get a percentage of the fraud. That's the business model. To suggest that there is any moral or ethical aspect to anything that's going on now is to be completely naive about the fact that we live in an era dominated by financial terrorists, jihadis of banking. They're here to kill you and themselves. They believe in an ideology, not the Quran, but Adam Smith, that they completely misread and interpret as something to justify their blowing themselves up. Janet Yellen's a terrorist! Mario Draghi's a terrorist! The Central Bank of Japan is a terrorist! These are the real terrorists!
Funds received.
This community is switching to what they think is a better monetary system. A system in which banks are no longer needed because payments could be made directly from one person to another.
In a system of debt, one of the two parties is always the slave. And that is the architecture of money we live in. That is the architecture of money we use in our civilization. An architecture of money where you have no control. An architecture of money where every interaction is mediated by a third party that has absolute control over that money. Bitcoin is fundamentally different because in Bitcoin, you don't owe anyone anything and no one owes you anything. It is not a system based on debt. It is a system based on ownership. And no one can censor it, no one can seize it, no one can freeze it. And what they will tell you is that they're worried. They're very worried. They're worried that criminals will use Bitcoin. But the truth is that they're far more terrified than all of the rest of us will. Thank you.
Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency that was mostly known as a convenient tool for criminals, has suddenly become an important topic at conferences on financial innovation all over the world. Proponents speak passionately of a digital miracle that can save the world from financial ruin. The Bitcoin story starts off like a gospel revelation. It's November the 2nd, 2008, just 6 weeks after the Lehman Brothers collapse, and all over the world there are panicked debates about how to save the banks. Then, on a little visited web forum for cryptographers, a document appears in which a completely new monetary system is proposed. The visionary author calls himself Satoshi Nakamoto.
First time I heard about it, I was at lunch with a buddy in Texas, and he said, man, there's this crazy new money. And so we talked about it over lunch, and then I went home and I said, man, I wanna see if I can buy some. At first, I wanted to buy some.
I emailed a friend of mine. I think I probably saw the white paper in some web forum or something. You know, it just said this is some electronic currency thing. And this was publicly available. You know, this was posted, I think December, 2008 or something.
And these were the darkest days of the financial crisis. So that to me suggests a very clever mind that saw an opportunity, the perfect opportunity to introduce a new radical technology and a new radical approach to money and finance at just the right moment when people would be very open to making this big shift that's required to adopt a new currency.
I'm pretty sure Satoshi is a human being, although I'd really love to go find out that he was some advanced AI. But 99.99% chance he was a human being.
What's exciting for me is like a global economy. Right now we say we have a global economy, but I can't take $1 and give it to you in the Netherlands and then you know what to do with it, right? You would have to go and change it to your native currency. And when you kind of eliminate that step, and I can just send you one form of payment and you can send me a product in a matter of seconds, that starts to change things from a global perspective. So
The first wire that I sent was for $25,000, and this was in early 2011, and Bitcoins were somewhere around $1. All the way along, I was buying Bitcoin, and anytime I managed to earn some dollars from my other company, I put it into Bitcoin, and at this point, the vast majority of my net worth I've been keeping in Bitcoin for a while now. I'm glad you didn't get the parking pin. The car is actually like the perfect color for Bitcoin. It's like the Bitcoin orange. So we wanted to order some like Bitcoin decals and put like Bitcoin logos around the car and then drive it around Tokyo to help advertise Bitcoin. But still never got around to doing that, maybe someday.
Roger Fear is the CEO of MemoryDealers.com, selling second-hand computer equipment. But for a couple of years now, he's been known as the Bitcoin Jesus. In 2011, he bought $25,000 worth of Bitcoins, which now have a market value of $6 million.
People think of Bitcoin as sort of an early adopter thing, like, okay, I'm already too late, or so isn't that a problem for Bitcoin?
So thinking that it's too late to get involved in Bitcoin is like thinking it's too late to get involved with the internet or too late to get involved with using a cell phone. Like, it's not too late to get involved with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to make your life easier in so many ways, and the price of Bitcoin too. It's not too late for that either. Bitcoin's like $270 a Bitcoin right now. If Bitcoin becomes really popular all over the world, Bitcoins are going to have to be worth at least tens of thousands of dollars a Bitcoin, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars per Bitcoin. So thinking it's too late to get involved with Bitcoin is like thinking it's too late to get involved with using the internet. Of course not. Like it's ubiquitous in our lives, and Bitcoin's going to become ubiquitous in our lives as well. ビットコイン財布が持ってたら今から送りますよ。送った。もう入った。早いでしょ？5秒じゃないよね。早い。何？これ何？すごい。そう、アプリインストールしたら。そう。今送ってる。もう送った？もう入ったでしょ？でも今日は1000円分。ビットコイン本当に世界中人気になったら100万円になるの可能性は全然あります。
Roger, are you giving Bitcoins away?
I'm giving every single person here 1,000 yen worth of Bitcoins, which is like $8 and something cents. So, 今、もう入った。Sorry, refresh button. もう入った。Okay. I've given away thousands of whole Bitcoins to just various people on Facebook that would post their Bitcoin address. And this was back when Bitcoins were a couple of dollars each, so I'm sure those people are pretty happy at this point.
How could this digital coin invented by this Satoshi Nakamoto become hundreds of times more valuable than the dollar? And why do enthusiasts like Roger Fear want the world to switch to Bitcoins? To understand this, we need to look at how new Bitcoins are created, a complex process called mining. Promotional videos make it look as if everyone can just mine Bitcoins. A Bitcoin is the reward for solving complex mathematical puzzles, and Bitcoin miners let their computers work day and night to complete these tasks. All the Bitcoin users in the world are connected, and together they constitute a network that processes and checks all Bitcoin transactions in a public ledger called the blockchain, and Satoshi Nakamoto designed it in such a way that users can create a free and anonymous Bitcoin account number, a so-called wallet. Satoshi's invention eliminates the need for a central bank, because all the users together are the bank. But early Bitcoin users had no idea how big Bitcoin and the blockchain would become.
I think sometime in spring of 2010, I could be wrong on the exact dates, but basically someone put out a request saying, hey, I'd like to buy something with Bitcoin. Will anyone buy me a pizza? And I believe someone here in England bought the person in Florida a pizza for 10,000 or something Bitcoins. I mean, it'd be worth, a very large sum of money today. And that was the first Bitcoin commercial transaction.
Garrick Heilman, an economist at the London School of Economics, was one of the first scholars to study Bitcoin and the blockchain as a serious monetary system.
As a scholar, did you sort of label it, or was it something totally new to you?
It looked very different to me. I mean, as soon as I heard the word decentralized and the fact there was a network powering this currency rather than a central issuer, that immediately captured my interest as something quite different based on what little I knew about alternative currencies at that time. What it meant for people who are libertarians in particular is that the government couldn't come in and shut down a server and end Bitcoin. It would have to shut down the entire internet or turn off the electricity grid to stop Bitcoin. And so that was really attractive to people who are worried about these types of things.
Why is the government and banks' monopoly on money creation seen as undesirable? In his white paper, Satoshi Nakamoto didn't express his opinion on this. But it does seem that he wanted Bitcoins to appreciate rather than depreciate, unlike money. He programmed Bitcoin in such a way that there's a maximum of 21 million Bitcoins to be mined. Bitcoins weren't meant to resemble money, but gold. In November 2013, this dream became reality when 1 Bitcoin was worth an ounce of gold. The Bitcoin code itself has never been hacked, but in 2014, the customer data of Mt. Gox, an online exchange office, was stolen by hackers, causing the Bitcoin exchange rate to plummet. At the Financial Times in London, journalist Isabella Kaminska has been critically following the Bitcoin exchange rate and community since the very beginning.
I've always been a geek about finance, and I've always been a geek about how the system works. So like the really boring nuts and bolts, the plumbing of the system. And I think in 2008, it was the first time we all really thought, actually, not only is this system as we know it possibly crumbling, there might be opportunities for new systems to come up as a result of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, yeah, so I guess I started writing about it again around here, 2012. And then we had the first little rally. And then this is also this is very reminiscent to the classic bubble chart.
I know that you guys want to change the next.
So you see, this is the famous bubble chart, which has takeoff, first sell-off, bear traps. That's the first little micro, mini dump. Then you go to the new total bubble, then it crashes. And there's a bit of like a return. People think maybe it's going to come back, and then it crashes again, and then it gets back to a more realistic trajectory. And you'll see that really is very reminiscent to what we've seen here. What everyone is really wondering is, will we see a consolidation of this price, or will it recover somewhat, or will it go completely to zero?
What do you think?
I think what's best for Bitcoin is actually if it just stays stable. So everybody agrees volatility is currently the biggest enemy of Bitcoin.
Satoshi's dream, what would that be?
The paper doesn't really say what his big dream was. He just wanted an efficient mechanism that was cheap. But in terms of what I think people have projected his vision as being is this world where we are all our own bank. We don't have to depend on any intermediary, and banks are gone. In the current economy, because of the way our system is structured, if I decide to hoard my dollars, I'm usually hoarding them in an institution that is using them as a means of capital raising, and they will be lending them out. So my money, even though I'm saving, that saving is going into an investment somewhere else, being done by a bank, etc., and it's helping to grow the economy. So my saving doesn't disadvantage the economy. But in Bitcoin, there isn't that opportunity. So a hoarded Bitcoin is a hoarded Bitcoin. It's totally idle. It has no interest, it has no yield. It is simply sitting there doing nothing. And yet the person who holds on to it thinks they have a right to future income flow as if they had been investing.
When the line was flat, people like massively bought in or mined Bitcoins, and they are now like multi-millionaire billionaires.
They're the new 1%. They're the 1% of the Bitcoin economy, which again goes against the whole democratization side of the argument, because really you're not democratizing the economy. You're just transferring the power from the existing elite to a new elite.
The fact that a few early Bitcoin miners and investors are now multi-millionaires is reminiscent of the current banking system, in which bankers are accused of personal enrichment.
So Bitcoin, in my definition, is not money. The key to something being money, in my opinion, is that it's a widely used unit of account, meaning that goods and services are priced in it. So when you go to the coffee shop, you see something priced in Bitcoin. That's not true. There are coffee shops where there are prices in Bitcoin, but that price is changing constantly based on the currency it's linked to. So the pound, for example, here in England lost 20% of its value recently, but the price of coffee didn't change. It was still 99p. That's what it means to be a unit of account, and Bitcoin is not that. The price adjusts based on its exchange rate continuously.
Do you see Bitcoin as a form of money or as digital gold?
So I see gold as money, and I see Bitcoin as having all the same properties of gold, with one property that, actually a couple properties that are even better. So gold is kind of hard to divide. Bitcoin divides down to 8 decimal points instantly, super easily. Gold is really, really difficult to transport. If I want to transport gold from here to Moscow, it'll cost a bunch of money to do that, and it's dangerous, and you have to have armed guards and who knows what. With Bitcoin, I can send Bitcoin from here to Moscow or to Holland instantly, just like that, basically for free. I don't have to pay for a bunch of armed guards. It just happens almost like magic.
If you ever ask somebody why they think gold's valuable, they can't ever really tell you. They always give you these like weird stories around, oh, it's like a precious metal, isn't it? It's pretty. While we think it has all this intrinsic value, this intrinsic value of gold has been largely constructed in people's heads, often by actually like association with power, association with religious figures. Bitcoin has potential for similar types of construction. You could create this sense of this almost like a commodity-like token that has no immediate sort of value to it, but can be imbued with value.
And a lot of people who got into the first year of Bitcoin actually had mental breakdowns. It was so beautiful. It was like you're seeing, some of the most remarkable art ever for the first time.
One of the qualities that I don't like about the community is that it's extremely absolutist. It's very politically led, and it assumes that its political ideology is the correct one, and it kind of thrusts its political ideology on everybody else. So I always say, I don't want political ideology when I'm paying for my coffee. I just want a payment network that works and that allows me to benefit from smooth transactions.
Lots of paper money. So this is a receipt, and this is my public address and private key.
You got it covered for us so we cannot film it.
That's right.
Bitcoin.
Over the past 2 years, new members are increasingly joining the Bitcoin community, not for ideological reasons, but for practical ones.
In Kiev, there are some protests happening, so people started using social media to share their QR code. Within a matter of days, they automatically had $15,000 in their wallets from sympathizers to the protests, that money was transferred from around the world. It's an incredibly powerful example because today I spent 7 years in Nicaragua, and today I still cannot use PayPal to transfer money to my friends in Nicaragua.
Whether or not Bitcoin will be worth millions isn't the main question for many computer scientists, investors, and hackers. To them, Satoshi Nakamoto's real invention is the blockchain technology, a global open ledger which can be used to share much more than just money.
You may think that Bitcoin is just another way to pay for a cup of coffee, but it's not. Bitcoin is just the denomination used to pay the toll to put stuff on this global ledger. Now, if you think about it, timestamp recordings of deaths, births, property, transactions, votes, this is the entire fabric of our civilization, which makes the blockchain one of the most profound human innovations of our time, because having a massive global ledger as a public utility can completely reorganize the way that we run our societies.
Fundamentally, blockchain is a database sort of mechanism, and it's a standard, it's a protocol. And one of the problems we have in an increasingly globalized system is that everyone is operating their systems on their own local standards. And getting people to do everything in a uniform way that benefits all of us, like, bringing in the metric system, that is really, really hard. Blockchain offers an opportunity to start this new, exciting technological industry from a standard that is globalized and potentially uniform. So I see the potential that way.
The decentralized blockchain makes it possible to share data publicly without a single party controlling the system. In the blockchain, all participants in the network are equal. Maybe inventor Satoshi Nakamoto saw Bitcoin as just the first experiment with this form of digital democracy.
I think blockchain technology is really authentically fascinating. I think it's anybody who ignores it and writes it off is probably making a mistake. I think it's definitely not going to get smaller.
But to this day, the true identity of the architect behind this revolutionary technology remains a mystery.
We can't ask Satoshi questions, which is really frustrating, right? But it's also, again, part of, I think, the magic of Bitcoin is that, we can all kind of imagine this technology, as we see it, rather than just as Satoshi did. So it could be used in this way, even if Satoshi didn't intend it to be this worldwide distributed thing. I think Satoshi probably did, but it still could be that, and we can make it that.
Satoshi around here somewhere in Tokyo?
Yeah, I think I see him right there. Oh, that's a question I get a lot, actually. A lot of people have asked me who Satoshi is since I got in so early. I think I've got a pretty good idea, but I like to keep that one close to my chest. So.
Why? Tell me.
Because I'm not 100% certain. And the reality is it doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't matter who Satoshi is. Because now it's kind of grown beyond like a pet project, right?
But I mean, Satoshi owns how much? How many coins?
I think he's got about 500,000 locked up.
With his blockchain technology, inventor Satoshi Nakamoto has completely relinquished his control of Bitcoin. But he does own 1/20th of all Bitcoins himself. So if one day Bitcoin does become widely accepted as a currency, he will be one of the richest people on Earth.
People might find that scary, a new currency or a system based on an inventor who owns already, 1/20th of all the currency he invented.
Yeah.
Isn't that a problem?
Satoshi invented one of the most important inventions in the entire history of humankind that's going to improve the lives of everybody on the planet for the better. If he had half of all the Bitcoins, he would still deserve it.
Who do you think Satoshi is?
I think it's probably a band of people who decided that a nom de plume was the best way to go, precisely because if it did take off, there would be too many consequences for an individual, one person, or even a group of people. And from my perspective, you never make a move of this sort without a myth. You need a sort of foundation myth. Every good sort of system of power has a foundation myth, and it's always best if the leader is either anonymous or aloof or in some way distant from the public, because you have to create a sort of mythology around him. And because Satoshi, nobody knows who he is. If we knew who he was, it would almost ruin the whole thing for everybody, I think.
Why did he disappear, you think?
He undermined the ability of every single government on the entire planet to control the money supply, and that's how every single government in the world is controlling their citizens and their economies today. And he just basically, knocked their feet right out from under them with the invention of Bitcoin. And I'm sure that's going to make a lot of people who want to control other people by force really, really upset. So yeah, I think it's really, really smart for him to have disappeared. And for me, it probably would have been smarter for me to keep quiet too, but Bitcoin's too exciting for me to stay quiet about. I think a lot of people are underestimating the way in which Bitcoin and the blockchain are going to change the power structures in society in general. I mean, I grew up in the US, and I see all these people like, yeah, nuke everybody in the Middle East and kill them all. And then they have the former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright on 60 Minutes, one of the most popular news shows in the US, and they ask her, they said, like, there's reports that more than 500,000 Iraqi children have died as a direct result of US sanctions. And she looks back at her with a straight face and she goes, it was a really tough decision, but I think that it was worth it. Worth murdering 500,000 kids because of what the government did? And I apologize for crying, but it just disgusts me from my core when I see government people murdering people around the world. It's not just theoretical, these are real people with real lives. And it's real people, and Bitcoin has the power to undermine everything they're doing to people around the world. And I'm sorry for shouting, but it just disgusts me what these people in government do. And they do it through central banking and through the control of the money supply, and Bitcoin takes that away from them.